survived the weather and the storm last night? Yes. So thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Leslie Aldrich. I'm the Executive Director at the Mass General Hospital Center for Community Health Improvement. And I've been asked to come here tonight just to talk to you a little bit about housing and health. I have been working at the Center for Community Health Improvement for over 20 years and have the privilege of working with a lot of people in this room. And what the center does is we assess and address public health issues in the communities that we serve. When people think of Mass General Hospital, they usually think of what? Great patient care, research, trying to cure diseases, and taking care of people taking care of people means also trying to prevent disease. So that's why, as a country, as a world, we've created vaccinations and vaccines, and we've also done things like screening people for their social histories and their family histories so that we can prevent illness before they start. At the Center for Community Health Improvement at Mass General, we also assess people, but we assess communities of people, and we try to find out what makes communities healthy or sick. And what we've learned over the last decade is that where people work, play, age, where they live, has the biggest influence on their health. In fact, 80% of somebody's health depends on the social determinants of health, those things that make up your community, the environment, the air that you breathe, the housing that you live. At Mass General, we recently did a community health needs assessment. So we went out and we assessed the needs of our communities. And we did that with both in Boston, the city of Boston, and we also did that in Chelsea, and Revere, and Winthrop as a collaborative. And we engaged in Chelsea alone nearly 800 people. We talked to them through surveys, interviews, focus groups, and we asked what their biggest health concern was. And what they told us was that housing, specifically high cost of rent, housing quality, safety, overcrowding, was one of the top 3 biggest health concerns for them. That's very, very telling. We also learned that 47% of Chelsea residents are cost burdened, and what that means is that 30% of their income or more goes to having to pay for rent and their housing. And that really means that close to 50% of residents are really faced with hard choices for their budgets. That's a hard way to live. So that we know that when our patients are faced with these choices, that it really creates a lot of stress and anxiety for people. It also creates depression, and that can in turn lead to chronic diseases. So people who are cost burdened and are spending a lot on rent, they internalize that, they have kind of toxic stress, and it learns to things like cardiovascular disease and other diseases in their health. And that is very, very important to know. We also know that affordable housing for all residents and all communities makes communities healthy in general. People have to move when they can't afford housing, or it's not safe, or it's overcrowded. They lose their social connections in their community, they lose their health care provider, and overall, their connection to their community. We also know that for our pediatric patients in particular, and for kids, it's true for kids, that when kids are faced with having to move because of affordable housing issues, then once they do move, they can lose up to 3 months of school every time they move. And that creates a big burden for them and for stress. So having affordable housing is one of the #1 priorities to work on in order to keep communities healthy. Has anybody read a recent Globe article from last week? It was called Miracle on the Mystic. Did anybody read that? Miracle on the Mystic, Chelsea and Everett, the New American Dream. And basically what that article said in the Globe was that Chelsea's actually doing something right. They call Chelsea an opportunity bargaining community, which means that because of affordable housing, people are able to move to Chelsea in some circumstances and give kids up the affordable shot at upward mobility. And that is really important. And Chelsea's doing something right other than other communities in Boston. that's very similar. So creating affordable housing for residents is one of the most important ways, as I said, to keep residents who are financially struggling healthy. It's the foundation for keeping us stable and safe, and like a vaccination, it can prevent us from being ill. So that's what we're doing. Right now, we've created a working group in Chelsea to be working on affordable housing, overcrowding, and safety of housing, and really working to create some solutions. So I hope people will be part of that as well. So I think this is a great effort. Really passionate about working on housing as a health issue. We at National are really excited about taking this on. We've taken this on as one of our priorities as a hospital to work on, and we'll be doing this both in Chelsea, Revere, and Winthrop, and also in Boston. We don't know what that's going to look like as a hospital to take this on as a priority, but we know it has to be done, and it has to be done collaboratively with everybody. It's not one institution or one individual's taking this on. It has to be done collaboratively together to create solutions. So thank you very, very much for having me here to talk, and I look forward to seeing how you guys this.
Ok, bueno, buenas noches, muchas gracias por haber venido. Primero que nada, le quiero agradecer a las organizaciones que están auspiciando el evento. Son varias organizaciones de Chelsea y fuera de Chelsea que nos están ayudando y que nos ayudaron muchísimo en desarrollar el foro. Primero, las organizaciones locales como MGH y el Centro de Mejoramiento de la Salud Comunitaria. Acabo de inventar el nombre. The Neighborhood Developers, TND, Green Roots, la Colaborativa de Chelsea, City Life Vida Urbana, la Universidad de Northeastern y Greater Boston Legal Services. Entonces, todas estas organizaciones trabajaron juntos para poder poner este foro para la comunidad con el enfoque de desarrollo, vivienda y el desplazamiento. Segundo, I want to speak a little bit about the table that has been working on this, and that this is sort of the first public event. And so it's the Anti-Displacement Roundtable, and locally it includes Green Roots, Chelsea Collaborative, and the Neighborhood Developers, as well as MGH, the Center for Community Health Improvement, and that's it locally. And then our allies have been Greater Boston Legal Services and City Life Vida Urbana. And so this is a table of organizations that have come together to really tackle the housing crisis and to work towards, to fight and to prevent displacement for those folks that are being displaced. And so if any other organization or any other residents want to join the roundtable, you are more than welcome to join the effort. And so please contact any one of us in the organizations that I mentioned, so you can get in touch with us and come to our next meeting to figure out what are some of our next steps. The next thing I want to do is, folks may wonder, what does Green Roots have anything to do with housing? And I want to sort of bring some clarity around environmental justice and anti-displacement. And so we know that as communities become healthier and prettier and nicer and more attractive to live in, they also become more expensive. And so as folks fight for environmental justice, to have clean air, clean water, clean soil, clean food, healthy foods, those communities become less affordable and less accessible. And so the folks that fought for those improvements are not able to enjoy them. And so our connection to anti-displacement comes at the intersection of environmental justice, housing, land use, and what is happening to our communities and the folks that live here. Because at the end of the day, environmental justice is about the environment and about the people that live in our communities. Y lo último que voy a hacer es revisar la agenda rapidito, lo que vamos a hacer hoy, y luego vamos a comenzar. Así que empezamos con la gente llegando, comiendo un poquito, las presentaciones que hicimos Leslie y yo. Luego vamos a tener un juego de simulacro de qué es lo que ocurre cuando una familia o una persona es desplazada. Luego vamos a tener un una ronda de preguntas muy rápidas en que los candidatos van a responder sí o no. Luego los candidatos van a poder dar sus comentarios de por qué se están postulando para las elecciones. Luego van a haber preguntas de la audiencia. Y por último vamos a cerrar el foro. Así que esperamos que ese formato le dé la oportunidad para que los candidatos puedan experimentar en un juego lo que significa ser desplazado, para que también puedan responder preguntas, compartir lo que ellos quieren compartir y luego responder preguntas de la comunidad. Así que con eso se lo paso a José.
Gracias, muy buenas noches y gracias a todos por haber asistido hoy. En este momento vamos a comenzar a explicar un poco acerca de la simulación. Mi nombre es José Agustín Gaeta Saldaña, ustedes me pueden llamar José. Y la razón por y yo soy el director asociado de desarrollo de la comunidad del Neighborhood Developers. Ahora, todos aquí vamos a jugar un juego, ¿no? En el cual nosotros vamos a tomar posiciones de personas de nuestra comunidad. Y vamos a usar las cifras y los números que están siendo usados por las personas fuera de nuestra comunidad, como el censo y otras fuentes de información, las cuales dictan o determinan muchas veces lo que pasa en nuestras comunidades. Entonces nosotros estamos tratando de ver esa perspectiva y ver la realidad del mercado de los hogares, y especialmente en esta crisis de hogares, para ver si verdaderamente las personas que dicen que viven en Chelsea y las personas que viven en Chelsea pueden quedarse en Chelsea. En este juego, el propósito va a ser simple. El objetivo es que ustedes puedan quedarse en Chelsea encontrando un hogar, encontrando comida y pagando sus utilidades, y también pagando transporte. Nosotros sabemos que en la vida hay más costos que vivienda, comida, electricidad y también transporte. Pero nosotros creemos que eso es lo básico que una persona necesita para poder vivir en nuestra comunidad. Ahora, todas las personas nos vamos a dividir en pequeños grupos y yo voy a ayudar con la facilitación de esos pequeños grupos y todos van a recibir un personaje. Esta noche nosotros les vamos a pedir que se pongan en los pies de esta persona. Van a tener una breve historia de la situación de esa persona y también en la parte de abajo van a tener el costo de su comida, de sus utilidades y también de su transporte. Y recuérdense, además de eso, ustedes van a tener que encontrar un lugar donde vivir. Tenemos dos estaciones. Aquí tenemos a Stacy y también a Irma, que son nuestras personas especialistas de vivienda, que lo conocen como Realtor. Así que cuando quieran buscar un hogar, van a visitar a Stacy y a Irma. Cuando ya quieran, si quieren buscar comida y sus utilidades y su transporte, ustedes pueden ir a la sección multicolor que está en el lado izquierdo del cuarto, o mi izquierda, su derecha, en el cual ustedes van a tener la oportunidad de seleccionar diferentes paquetes de comida, ya sea básico, económico plus o de primera clase. ¿Cómo están hasta ahorita? ¿Están bien? ¿Sí? Ok, entonces, ¿cuál es el propósito? Quedarse en Chelsea. ¿Qué es lo que necesitan? Un hogar, comida, utilidades y transporte. Rod y Cara, que se pueden levantar la mano, van a dar las hojas con su personaje y también van a dar sus tiquetes. Esos tiquetes simbolizan los ingresos de un mes y esto es la única cantidad de dinero que ustedes van a tener para gastar. ¿Ok? Ahora, en este momento, si no hay preguntas, voy a pedirle a que todas las personas que tienen un botón azul Todas las personas que tienen un botón azul, si se pueden, creo que hay más allá. Levanten las manos con el botón azul. Ok, yo siento que hay bastante en esta área. Entonces, todos los de botón azul, si por favor pueden venir en esta área, se pueden parar y venir en esta área. Y todas las personas con botones rojos, se pueden ir a esa área. Ok, parémonos y vamos a así. Azul aquí, rojo aquí. Las personas que tienen dos colores pueden ir donde quieran. Thank you so much. So just quickly, today we're going to play a simulation where we're going to match what is being said about our community in like census information and all their different data sets, and with complementing it with stories of people that live in our community. And we're gonna ask participants to play a role of a person, and we're gonna give them that role, and we're gonna break you into small groups, so you're gonna be working with other people in order to ensure the goal is for people to stay in Chelsea. But in order to stay in Chelsea, you're gonna need to have food, utilities, transportation, and a home. So your goal is, you're gonna get a character that makes a certain amount of money. You're going to get a character sheet with a certain amount of money, and you're going to spend it.
It's not on the mic.
Okay. Thank you. We're gonna ask you to spend your money accordingly in order for you to stay home, stay in Chelsea, our home. Okay. And right now, I ask participants to go. If you have a blue dot, to come on this side. To have a red dot, go on that side. And we're gonna break into smaller groups. All right. So thank you so much for your participation.
And if you have both colors?
Oh, and if you have both colors, then you can choose wherever you want to go. Great. Thank you for the question.
So if folks can take their seats, if everyone can take their seats back to your group. to the lightning round and the questions for the candidates.
While some folks are finishing up, how was that experience? Which group was able to find a home?
Raise your hand, guys.
Who found a home? Wait, what's going on here? ¿Qué pasa aquí?
Una casa porque el dinero que teníamos ahora es 7, pero ya no lo pago. Ni tampoco comida, porque la comida valía 9 el paquete. Lo único que pudimos coger es transporte que valía 5. Y nos quedamos con 2, o nos quedamos sin comida, sin casa y sin nada.
Wow, so our friends here, they only had 7 tickets. And they felt that the homes were more than 7 tickets. And they couldn't find a home, and they couldn't even buy food. They only found transportation. Thank you for sharing. And I'll come and help you next time so we can find you a home. Yo les voy a ayudar para que encontremos un hogar. All right. So who was able to find a transportation package? Transportation? Okay. Everyone? Good. Great job, you guys. And what about food and utilities? Great job. All right, so you guys did it. You were able to stay in Chelsea. Great job. Woo! Give them a party. But and a lot of when I was walking around, a lot of folks had questions about like, why is there a cost? Why are these tickets? And don't worry, everything's going to be explained at the end. Right now, just know that all the tickets you have, it's your monthly income, and that's all you can spend in order to stay in Chelsea. And remember, your goal is to find all the things that are offered and a home. All right, now, we're going into the future. And now we're going 2 years out. And now, with every year, rents go up. And also the cost of living, food and utilities usually go up. But for this game, we're just going to use the projections for the way that the rents have been going up in Chelsea for the last 5 years. And they're going to stay the same, at the same rate for the next 2 years. So, when you're looking for your home, this time, aside from the price, you're going to add whatever number is under the 3. So, that indicates that it's going to be 3 years from now. Yes?
I just want to share something with people that people might not be aware of. I have 9 children personally and had to move out of Chelsea to get shelters because there's no shelters in Chelsea. And I was able to move back. So our family is a family of 6 and we're hungry because we got an expensive apartment and an expensive car. But in each city, you're able to get community food from shelters and also from churches. A lot of people are not aware of that. And there's also dollar bags too that you can get. So I thought it was a wise investment for us to have a car and a home first, as far as food goes, to make it work, to
So
feed our
knowing
family.
about the different supports in communities and that food security is a big priority, that there's different resources for that. Thank you so much for sharing that and for sharing your experience. Now, so now for the game, we're going to do the same. The objective is the same. Your income is going to stay the same, but the rent are going to go up. All right? And your goal is to stay in Chelsea. You already have a unit in front of you. See if you can afford it. You already have a package. You know how much it's going to cost you. So you're going to have 7 minutes. We're going to number 3, yes. We're going to number 3. On the home, you're going to go number 3. So whatever the cost of the unit was, you're going to add whatever number is under 3. Cualquier número que esté debajo del número 3, ustedes se lo van a añadir al costo de la unidad. All right? All right. Does everyone know what they're doing? Any questions? ¿Alguna pregunta? All right. Try to stay in Chelsea.
Now, the children that we have,
Ahora por vez de 12 vas a tener que pagar. Entonces tenés que ver si la comida te alcanza para la comida de casa. Tienes que ver eso. Tienes que ir a hablar con las personas.
Also, because of the market spoke, we opened a new real estate agency and utilities on this side. So if you just don't want to be cramped in that side, you can also get your homes and your utility and transportation and food on this side too. Si ustedes quieren comprar cosas, también las pueden comprar aquí. Buenas noches. Si me escuchan, aplaudan una vez. If you can hear me, clap twice. Great. How was that experience? ¿Cómo estuvo eso?
stressful.
Stressful. Whoa, one word answers. How do you feel about that experience? Frustrating. Muy fácil. Very easy. If you have money, yes. Okay. Now, as we were playing, I asked some volunteers to go around and have conversation with you guys. And what I'm going to ask is I'm going to ask one of the volunteers to read a little bit about what they were hearing from people. So,
Okay. So what I heard from people depended on how much money you had, right? Some of you guys were very fortunate. You had lots of money. So it was fun. Why not? Yeah, it was good. It was good. We're comfortable, right? Other people were like, it's okay, we're living in the basement, but we can live here. Other people are like, we have a house, but we don't have food, right? So there's sacrifices that people are making, right? They're saying that, he kept hearing from like a couple people, like, I live this every day. That this is my reality, that I'm lucky that I can play this game, but it's other people's reality, right? So this might be a fun little game, but for a lot of people, this is the difficulty of staying in Chelsea, is finding a place. So there's lots of frustration, but it depended on how much money you had. If you were lucky and you had 31 tickets a month, you're good. If you're a single person with 8 tickets, not so much, right?
thank you so much for that. Does that resonate with many of you?
Yes.
Yeah. Any other thoughts that you guys want to share? Algo más que quieren compartir? All right, we're gonna hear here and then here.
So hi everyone, I was working with this group and we were fortunate to have 31 tickets, and something that we were saying as a group was that we felt very stress-free. Like, life is just, let's get the best of the best, and there was no need to compromise on anything. So that was like the common feeling here of just being stress-free.
How many people were there in your family?
Only one.
Oh, that's
we were just one person programmer,
High class
and
life.
our salary was $130,000.
Okay.
So,
Fancy meeting you here.
Thank you. Now we're going to hear from this group.
Una de las cosas que yo pienso, one of the things that I think is that it's very hard because this is what's happening in our community, and we have to work together to get the support that we need, because a lot of people from Jersey are moving out only because this is the scenario of every single day. People are, in shelters, without food, without a lot of services that we need to survive. So I think we have to support these causes, and we have to make a difference so we can change the community, and not only Chelsea, but to kind of like expand it everywhere too. Because with this, these scenarios, we can see what really is happening in Chelsea.
All right, thank you so much for that. And I want to speak just a little bit about that team because it was my goal to find them a home, and I created this game, but unfortunately I couldn't find them a home. They had a subsidy, and they couldn't find a home that could take it. So it was really tough for them. So thank you so much for playing, and I know it was frustrating. And I'll see about getting those tickets for the food.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Now, I just want to hear from the group. What did you guys prioritize? Did you guys prioritize food? Who prioritized food and utility? You guys did? You can raise your hand. All right. What about transportation? Who prioritized transportation? So this table prioritized transportation? All right. So who prioritized housing? Your home? All right. And one of the things that I heard someone mention in one of the times that I did this is that, you know, la renta come primero. Rent eats first. And it seems that in this group, it also resonates. So, there's additional questions, but just because I want to honor everyone's time, I think we're going to cut it short today. But thank you so much for participating and for playing along. Although those were characters for you guys tonight, this is the reality of many people in our community. So as we continue our conversation, please keep that in mind. So thank you once again. Muchas gracias.
Okay, so we're going to start in this way. We have folks in the audience. If you want to ask a question, Danielle here is collecting them on index cards. So you have to fill out an index card. We'll pass them out, and then we'll read a few of them at the end of the night, depending on how much time we have left at the end of the night. To start this evening, I'd like to ask all of the candidates to say just your name and the position that you're running for. We'll start this way and go down.
My name is Giovanni Rucubona.
And there's another mic.
Do I have to stand or can I just? It doesn't matter. My name is Giovanni Rucubona and I'm the district council for District 6. And I'm very proud to be the council for District 6.
Hi everyone, buenas noches, good evening. I am Judith Garcia and I am running for re-election for District 5. Buenas noches, mi nombre es Judith Garcia y estoy postulándome para reelección al Distrito 5.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Naomi Zabit, and I am running for City Councilor of District 3.
Hi, my name is Joseph Polatonda. I'm currently the District 3 City Council running for re-election.
Hola, mi nombre es Melinda Vega. Hi, my name is Melinda Vega, and I'm running for City Council for District 2.
Hi, my name is Luis Tejada, and I'm running for re-election District 2. Hola, mi nombre es Luis Tejada y estoy postulando para la reelección del Distrito 2. Gracias.
My name is Todd Taylor. I'm running for City Councilor from District 1.
Hi everyone, I'm Rick Pantano, and I'm running for Councilor in District 1.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Roy Regineda, and I'm running for City Councilor at large.
Good evening. My name is Leo Robinson. I'm running for City Council at large for re-election. I'm the longest serving City Council in the history of the city. Thank you.
I am Damali Vidal. Hello. I am Damali Vidal. I'm the current City Councilor at large, and I'm running for re-election. And as long as we're dropping stats, I am the first woman to serve as City Council President for 2 years.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, I just want to say that Mark Rossi let us know, unfortunately, he couldn't be here. He had a last-minute family emergency. He had planned to be here tonight. He couldn't because he had a family emergency. He sends his regrets. Okay, so we're going to start with a lightning round. Lightning round means it's yes or no answers. No extrapolating, what's it? Yeah, that word. Just yes or no. I'm going to try and shake it up a little bit so that everybody gets a fair chance. We're going to start down, all the way down at the end with the very first question. Yes or no answers, please. Is affordable housing a priority for you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Claro que sí, yes.
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 Thank you. Okay, we're gonna start with Luis, and we're gonna come down this way, and then we'll go back around, okay? As a city councilor, would you support using city funds to incentivize affordable housing development for home ownership? I'll read it one more time. As a city councilor, would you support using city funds to incentivize affordable housing development for home ownership? Luis?
Just yes, no, right?
Just yes, no. Well, yes?
Yes.
Okay, loud so we can hear you.
Yes for a short period of time.
For a short period of time.
Okay, Melinda?
Yes.
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 Back to Molly?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Next question. We're going to start with Todd and go down this way and come around. Would you support the use of city funds to incentivize affordable housing for rentals? Again, would you support the use of city funds to incentivize affordable housing for rental? For rental units? Starting with Todd and going down.
Well, it's already been done, so yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, next question. Folks in the audience, don't forget that you have an opportunity to fill out questions. Danielle has the cards, so please fill out questions as we go on. We're going to start with Damali and come on down. As a part of Chelsea's waterfront redevelopment, would you support creating an overlay district that prioritizes affordable housing?
Yes.
Yeah. Still yes, no?
Just yes, no.
Yes.
Yes. Do you?
Yes.
Yes.
Claro que sí.
Yes.
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 Question number 5. Again, yes or no. We're going to start with Leo and then go to the right and all the way around. Okay. Would you support dedicating city resources to ensure tenants who are facing eviction and low-income owner-occupants facing foreclosure have access to legal counsel? I'll read it one more time. Would you support dedicating city resources to ensure tenants who are facing eviction and low-income owner-occupants facing foreclosure have access to legal counsel?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Yes.
Excellent. We're going to start with Melinda. Come down around this way. Do you support state legislation that would protect tenants and their family members from having an online public eviction record when they are not evicted by a judge or a jury? One more time. Do you support state legislation that would protect tenants and their family members from having an online public eviction record when they are not evicted by a judge or a jury?
So that means that people won't have access to seeing.
Exactly.
Yes.
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 Yes, yes, yes.
I might have heard the question, but I thought that was a no for me. Can you repeat it?
Do you support state legislation that would protect tenants and their family members from having an online public eviction record when they are not evicted by a judge or a jury?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Privacy reasons, yes. Absolutely.
We're going to start with Roy and then go to the right. Do you support the development of more market rate home ownership units?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, asterisk.
Giovanni?
Yes.
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 I say yes, but I don't prioritize.
Yes with the asterisk. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
Yes. Yes.
We're going to start with Joe and come on to the left and all the way around. Do you support the development of more market rate rental units?
Yes.
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 Yes with an asterisk as well.
Molly?
Yes, asterisk.
Yes, we need a mix.
Can you repeat that?
Do you support the development of more market rate rental units?
No. Yes.
No.
Yes, Astrid.
I don't either. We'll start with Judith and we'll go down the line this way. Okay, Judith, do you support a municipality's right to adopt rent control?
Yes.
Yes.
No, it doesn't.
It's illegal, so no.
No. No.
Yes.
Yeah, why not?
Okay, last question. We're going to start with Naomi. Would you, and we're going to go this way around. Would you support the adoption of rent control in Chelsea? Yes.
Yes.
Can you repeat the question?
Would you support the adoption of rent control in Chelsea?
Against the law, no. No, Astrid.
No. No, it's illegal.
No.
No.
Okay, excellent. So that ends our lightning round. So folks in the audience, if you have questions, please see Danielle, fill out the index cards. We're now going to move to the candidate statements. So we're going to ask you, you each have 90 seconds. Raphael over there with the orange tie. Raphael, can you come a little closer? Raphael is going to time this to make sure that we are on track and that everybody has the fair amount of time. So 90 seconds to tell us who you are, your position, why folks should vote for you. We're going to start with Damali and come on down.
You want a microphone?
Yes, you should take a microphone, yes.
There's a microphone. Have one.
I'll start your timer, yeah.
I have to start it.
Ready? Thank you, Stephanie.
Hi everybody, my name is Damali. I'm an at-large city councilor here in Chelsea, as well as your city council president. I've been serving humbly since 2016, and I am running for re-election. When I first got into office, there were 3 things I wanted to focus on. Development without displacement, investing more resources into our young people, and a more transparent government, and trying to figure out how to engage more of everyday folks into local government. I feel that while being on the council, we've been able to do that, but my work is not done. I want to go a little deeper in talking about housing equity. I look around this room, I see so many beautiful, diverse faces, and it's what I want to preserve here in this community. I would love, there's a need for more home ownership, absolutely, but there are also a whole, on the opposite side of the spectrum, of need for housing. And I think that it's important for me to make sure that I'm representing this crew, that we're thinking about how we can continue to, oh, that's very distracting, how we continue to grow. If the rising tide lifts all boats, how do we lift everyone with us so we can preserve the beautiful diversity and the values that Chelsea is? I'm always humbled to serve this community, and I think that we can all work together. I think we tend to be on opposite sides of the spectrum, and I would like to see us create more dialogue and trying to figure out how to address this very, very complex situation.
Thank you. My name is Leo Robinson, longtime city councilor, 5-term president of the city council. A lot of my issues are around housing. Actually, I wrote the first inclusionary zoning ordinance that was passed by my colleagues on the council to make sure that we were addressing the needs of the people of Chelsea, being able to have 30%, 50%, 60%, and 80% AMI in order for people who live in Chelsea to be able to afford to stay in Chelsea. My other strong point is education. I'd like to say to the young kids out there, education, get a good education, you get a good job, and you'll be able to live anywhere that you want. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Roy Rizanither and I'm running, of course, at large. I've been on the council off and on for almost 20 years, and I'm just going to focus saying on housing issues, because that's what this forum is about. I feel I'm a big advocate for affordable housing in this community. I helped pass the Community Preservation Act, which was is now collecting funds to create open space and affordable housing in the city of Chelsea. Supporting my colleagues when we talked about passing the inclusionary zoning, which now requires any development to have at least 15% of housing to be affordable. And I continue to push projects for home ownership. I know that a lot of the focus is on the rental, but I think that also we're seeing more and more people who work here in this community, who are trying to buy here and cannot find a place. And we need to also think about that and to continue to keep our community as a working class community that has quick access to Boston. So thank you, and I hope you'll support.
Hi, Rick Pantano. I'm running for Council of District 1. I'm a lifelong resident of the city. I've been chairman of the Economic Development Board for the last 22 years. And I understand how we got here. It's through the development that the board implemented in the Everett Avenue Urban Renewal District. We started with the windows and continued on and built the One North development, first and second phase, continued with additional hotels in the city. These developments transformed the city into what it is today. And we're at a time where the economic prosperity that we're witnessing and experiencing should be shared with all our residents. I take a stand that Chelsea people are important, residents are important. We should maintain our residents. So I support affordable housing as we develop a mix. And as council, I will continue to support them. Thank you.
My name is Todd Taylor. I'm also running for City Councilor District 1. So part of my, let me address housing first, since that's what this gathering was for. I'm on record as a member of the Planning Board for implementing Councilor Robinson's 30, 50, 80 AMI into the code. What I think we need to do, and I draw a line here because we don't have enough home ownership, and I would like to see organizations like TND go back to their kind of original mission of trying to get people into home ownership, because that's really what the American dream is all about. And as far as the Miracle on the Mystic article in the Globe, I think that we need to have Chelsea continue to be an upwardly mobile community. And that means lifting up our residents, not just, giving something to someone to help them get by, but actually providing good resources for people to actually lift themselves up so they can provide their children with a better future. And I think we can be a part of that.
Hi, my name is Luis Tejada, and I have been in the council for 4 years in Soldiers Home. So I came into the council mainly because I understood the fact that there were changes going on in the city, where fees, and there were a lot of charges being thrown at individuals. And as it is, most of us live paycheck to paycheck. So my reason for going into the council was, number one, I wanted to create safety on the city steps in Soldiers Home. And I also wanted to ensure that everybody that I got in touch with gave me their email address so I could send them information and they became aware. Because I understood that sometimes things increase in cost. But if you know why they're increasing, it's a little bit more palatable. And it allows you a little bit of time to make adjustments in your lifestyle. I got into the council for Soldiers Home, to protect my area. That's why I'm a district councilor. But I also I am very fortunate to be surrounded by a group of counselors that are concerned with home affordability, displacement, and we work together to really try and get our people in Chelsea to remain in Chelsea. And you know, I'm fighting for the big cause. That's my thing. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Melinda Vega. I am running for City Council for District 3 as well. Two. I'm sorry, 2. Perdón. I want to say that, so I'm a mother of 2 young boys, a 3-year-old and a 4.5-year-old. I'm the wife of a Chelsea police officer here. And I want to, staying with this affordable housing issue, I want to share a story, which is my story. So I grew up here in Chelsea. I'm a lifelong resident here. And I grew up here. I worked as a young person, as a youth organizer, and I am very fortunate that I can say my thoughts of raising my kids here in Chelsea is to have the capacity and the availability to walk around Chelsea and highlight all the things that I was a part of and that I impacted and created change. Such as like all the green spaces. I can do an environmental justice tour, and now one of the things that I want to mention is when I was faced with buying a home, sorry.
Yeah, why don't you go that way?
Hi, my name is Joseph Peloton. I'm the District 3 City Councilor here in Chelsea. And you don't have to echo most of my colleagues are stating. We need more affordable housing. I voted for affordable housing as being on the council. We also need more home ownership as well. And currently, right now, we voted for the Central Avenue project, which, you know, we talk about people being displaced, but 96 people are going back into those low-income housing units, which are more affordable and they're going to be up to date for the people here living in Chelsea. Also, other things that we need to talk about as well as affordable housing is, yes, you have a place to live, but if you don't have the safety factor in Chelsea, how are you going to live in a beautiful home that's affordable? I mean, I put the police officer on the street walking a beat back when I first started as a city councilor. I'm working on the education factor for our future children here to go on to become a better life so they can get back to Chelsea or move out of Chelsea. You know, we've talked about parking issues that, you know, need to be addressed because there's enough parking here in the city of Chelsea. But like I said, we're working with all these groups like T&D, Green Groups, the Collaborative. We can, you know, help Chelsea be a better place for all of us here and come up with more affordable housing for everybody. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Naomi Zavit and I am running for City Council of District 3. I'm not a lifelong resident, but I am third generation. My grandmother is 100 years old and very proud that I am running for City Council because although she moved to Brookline over 40 years ago, she still holds Chelsea so very near and dear to her heart. She talks about it every Sunday when my sister and I visit her. So, along with everybody who is running and who presently sits on the council, I do care about the health of this city and how we are going to progress as we move forward in you know, in the nation, in the world, and how everybody can be a part of that. I work with children who have special needs, and when I think about the way that the school where I work, all of the kids manage to work together to achieve goals, I think about this community and how diverse the community is, like where I work, and how we are able to achieve those goals. And I look forward to serving on council.
Good evening, everyone. Buenas noches. My name is Judith, and I am currently the City Council for District 5. It's definitely been an honor to be here tonight and really get to experience this. I like to say that I am honored to have been representing District 5, which I like to call the heart of Chelsea. And this specific exercise today was very symbolic because this is the experience of many of my constituents. And I want to save time because I know we don't have a lot of time, and I don't want to focus too much on talking about what we have achieved in the past 4 years. I want to focus on what we could be doing going forward. My politics is very, very simple, and my motto has always been, I am focused on solving social and public health issues, and that's what matters to me. And this particular exercise taught me today that it's not enough to just provide affordable housing. We need to ensure that our residents are able to afford to live and stay in these cities. And by that I mean, yes, it's okay to provide affordable housing, but can our residents actually find work in the area? Can they find transportation in the area? Can we have schools for children that's important for all of them? So that's what's important for me. I'm a true believer that we need to work together to make things happen. So I would be humbled to ask for your vote on Tuesday, November 5th. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Giovanni Ricuvro, and I'm the District Council of District 6. I could tell you all the things I've done, but that's not what I'm going to tell you. The only thing I want to tell you is that I am you, the people. Without you, it wouldn't be me. Without all the support from the people, we are here to support you and to work for you and to make a better place for all of us to live. That's all I can promise you is that while I'm there, the only thing, my whole intention is to make life better for all the residents of our city and to make a better place for all of us to live. That's it. I'm not going to promise you I can do this and I can do that. I cannot. The only thing I can do is strive for all of you, the people. And that's all I'm going to say. I ain't got nothing more to say. That's it.
Folks, it's not too late to ask questions from the audience. We've got a little tangle going on here. So if you haven't yet had a chance to write out a question, we still have index cards, so please grab one and write your question down. This is Danielle. She is from MGH Center for Community Health, and she's going to read our first question. We're going to do this popcorn style. So for those of you who don't know what popcorn style is, we're just going to do it randomly. Raise your hand if you want the first chance at the question. Every person is going to have 30 seconds because we may have a lot of questions. So each person has 30 seconds to answer this question. Don't feel obligated to answer it if you don't want to. We're not calling on everybody. If you want to answer it, let us know by signaling. All right, Danielle, first question.
Thank you so much for great questions, guys. Our first question is, how would you fund affordable housing or affordable housing programs in the city?
What's the first take? First step? Damali.
Well, we have CPA funds that Councilor Avellaneda mentioned.
Sorry, if you could use the mic.
Okay. We do have CPA funds that Councilor Avellaneda did say that we were able to pass and that there was a certain amount of money coming there. I think, honestly, I would be willing to use some of our money in free cash in order to invest in our community to be able to either buy down mortgages or recently we passed a home rule petition, well it barely passed, but we passed a home rule petition to be able to get properties that people lose after they don't pay their taxes, so the city would be able to take it and give it onto the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We have a trust fund board that for years has been dormant, but there are many opportunities there, including community land trust. So I just think that if we really are serious about addressing this issue, then we should be willing to put our money where our mouth is.
Well, first of all, I think we need to be talking to our state legislatures as to appropriating more money in regards to subsidies for people to be able to reach those subsidies. As we know, on the waiting list at Chelsea Housing Authority might be 5 years out. So therefore, we need to be advocating on the state level. I know Raphael understands the tax credits and how we can apply the tax credits to be able to build more affordable housing here within the city. Thank you.
You don't have to take it if you don't want to. Judith has her hand up, so give it to Judith, and then if you guys want to come back to you.
Thank you. I think that we have made steps in the right direction to address this issue in the past 4 years, but I also think that it's not too complex to do our research and see what other cities are doing. And not only other cities throughout the US, but other cities away and abroad. I think that's very important. But more than that, I also want to highlight that there are organizations in Chelsea that are currently presenting many of these projects, and I must say one of them is present here. You know, the neighborhood developers, I was actually here last week in support of a project that really was very holistic, and I encourage a lot of my colleagues to really look into that and some of the candidates as well, because we need to evolve and really adopt development options that are transit-oriented to address other issues in our community, which include congestion and just that upward mobility that these sort of projects really provide. So that's something else that we should be doing, not only as counselors, but also as a community, showing up for those projects in our community that are already presenting these solutions.
Anybody else want to jump this? Going once, going twice, next question. So act fast.
How would you ensure housing security for immigrant families, especially those undocumented? How would you ensure housing security for immigrant families, especially those undocumented?
First thing you would have to do is to make sure you talk to the landlords. And the landlords are the number ones. If they, in return, help them by trying to lower the rents and trying to keep them here, it will be a good thing for them. If the landlords that own these buildings are not willing to do such a thing like that, you can't ensure nothing. We can say all we want, but everything is driven by money. Money is what runs everything. So the main thing is to make sure that they stay here, and you help them, is that the landlords collaborate and try to make it a little better for them. And maybe the city can give them some type of tax break if they help these people. I don't know any other way.
So this one hits a core because I represent District 5, and we have a lot of tenants who are undocumented and do not live in the best conditions. And I think that the best way to address this issue is through education. Unfortunately, immigrants and undocumented immigrants who live in these areas who are renting rooms do not have an understanding of their tenant rights. And I've found myself in situations where they call me and they show me these notices of eviction that says clearly you have 30 days to leave your apartment or your room, and they just don't know who to turn, where to go. They don't know their tenant rights. Luckily, I know the Chelsea Collaborative does a lot of work to provide that information, but I found myself in situations where I actually have to send them off to I believe it's City Life in East Boston, and they actually provide legal advice for free once a week in East Boston. I know some folks are here from there, and I've had to send them there so they can learn their rights and figure out what to do for next steps. So big one for that is education.
Earlier tonight, the question was if I would support more market rate rentals, and I would say no. Reason being is that what I've seen is these newer, larger developments are not renting to traditional people who are living here in the city. It's by no mistake that Chelsea has the highest minority homeownership percentage across the state, and therefore it is those private homeowners that are renting themselves, who are minorities, to their family members or friends of friends. It's why I encourage organizations such as Chelsea Restoration, who has for decades been giving first-time home buyer courses and leading them to lenders that can afford a home, and then they rent to other people who more likely will not be able to get into these larger buildings that require a first, a last, a security deposit. Make sure that they actually have a credit history, because many of these people do not have social securities. I've been found, as in my professional life, I've tried to assist people who fit that profile. And I can tell you there are many buildings that just are non-starters because of that paperwork that is required. So the easiest thing that can happen is that we encourage first-time home buyers to buy these homes in this community that they will then for rent to their own.
Just to add on, that you mentioned Chelsea Restoration. I'm the treasurer at Chelsea Restoration. For years, we've worked with first-time home buyers. The first outings, we helped 250 people actually buy homes in Chelsea, and 50% of those who own are presently living here in Chelsea.
I just want to highlight that is happening already. I think that the beautiful thing about Chelsea is that when push comes to shove, we really do work with one another. And a lot of the private homeowners are already renting apartments to undocumented families. Granted, there are a lot of not healthy living conditions, but if you want to make sure that you're going to get your rent every month, then you rent to an immigrant family, because I promise you, they're working their tails off to make sure that they have a roof over their heads. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that it's important to elect counselors that are deeply rooted in the community, that have relationships with people, undocumented, documented, youth, elders. If you don't have someone at this table that makes decisions, that is connected with the people in the community, then that bridge will never happen. So I just wanted to make sure that we said that.
Are there any other candidates who would like to answer this question? Once, twice, next question.
How would you support affordable housing for our most vulnerable, like our elders and our young children?
This one hits home for me. As everybody knows, I took in a homeless young person last year. It is a reality. Our homeless population in Chelsea High for our students has doubled from one year to the other. It is a problem. There are kids that are couch surfing, living under porches. It is a problem. The first thing that I would do is start paying attention to these big buildings like the Broadway Glens and the 150 Captain's Row, because they all have some deep restrictions, and at some point the subsidy expires. And before those low-income units become yet another luxury condo, I think it's important that we continue to stay on top of those things and continue to advocate for affordable housing at multiple levels of the AMI, so that there is upward mobility, but also preserving and supporting those folks that are on fixed incomes.
Well, I'd just like to add to that, being that we're talking about elderly. The last development for elderly within this community, I think, was built, and now maybe correct me, is 50 years ago. And we have not paid attention to the elderly in this community. At one time, the elderly population was the biggest vote within our community. So hopefully down the road there will be opportunities to take a look at some elderly housing, whether it's through the federal or state or through some private partnerships.
Just this morning, I was having a conversation with City Manager Tom Ambrosino, and my encouragement to see if we could find full-time budget or part-time budget position for a senior housing specialist. I have at times been approached by an elderly person who's seeking housing, and I've tried to work with Geraldine here, who works at the Tracy Nowicki, and there is nobody who specializes to try to work, I think, like a real estate agent would, have a database of all the landlords in this community, and so that they, as a senior center, should be, I use this as a resource center that can come here, talk to the individual like Geraldine, be able to have a roster of landlords who will have available, know where the apartments are that are available, and then be able to get them into that apartment. And I think that that's a good first step in having one person dedicated from the city just to help elderly people find places in the existing structure, and then of course encourage more.
Thank you, Lori. Other counselors? Other candidates, rather? Folks? Okay, moving on to the next question.
Similarly, how would you support affordable housing for our first responders, our police, and our fire department?
Roy.
I believe that in other communities, the CPA funding allows for down payment assistance, and I would encourage that down payment assistance from the CPA be given to our first responders, teachers, firefighters, police officers, that if we want to require that they live here, that they also be given the resources. And CPA funding can be used for down payment assistance, and that's a way to encourage that.
Thank you. Other candidates? Anybody? Okay, we'll move on to the next question.
If the state did pass a law that allowed the municipalities to enact rent control, do you think it's possible in Chelsea?
Okay, folks jumped up quickly, so we're going to have Judith, and then Damali, and then other folks. Sorry.
Well, if there was legislation that allowed municipalities this right, I would support it. I think that I heard some colleagues today say that it was illegal, but reality is, if we look at history, Cambridge did implement this about 20 years ago, and rent control did exist. It was eliminated, but if this were to be a reality, again, I would be in full support, because reality is that some landlords do not measure, and as we saw today in some of these exercises, rent increases rapidly while income stays the same. So there's something that we have to do. At least it's our responsibility and our civic duty to ensure, as one of my colleagues mentioned, that we preserve some of the folks who want to continue making Chelsea their home. So, yeah, so that's
I would absolutely support it as well. I think if we were to make decisions based on what was legal or what's illegal, the fact of the matter is I wouldn't have been able to vote. And not only am I able to vote, but I'm also able to serve as your city councilor. And so it's important that we challenge these systems and continue to challenge these ways of thinking to continue to progress and make sure that we're being inclusive of all. Currently in the city, we have a small group of folks that are saying that being a homeowner in this city, that you take more care of your home and that you prioritize cleanliness. And I feel that in a community that has 75% of renters, that's a very dangerous thing to say. So that because if there are people right now that I know that are paying more in rent than some folks pay in mortgage. So because if they're not able to afford the ability to buy a home, does that mean that they want dirtier streets? I think that's very classist, and I think that we need to be very careful about the way that we approach this, which is why it's important that you vote for councilors that understand those realities and are connected with people in the community to continue to advocate for the most marginalized around us. Tuesday, November 5th.
Roy, hold on, sorry. Tom had his hand up first, I'll come back to you.
So, so I just want to touch off on what Damali just said. We actually have about 80% renters in the city, not 75, and we have 20% home ownership. So when she said that we have people that are paying more in rent than some people pay in mortgages, that's kind of my point, is that we need to be getting people who are paying these high rents, the people that can qualify or help them to get qualified, to become homeowners, to participate in the American dream. When you own your home, you're more likely to stay here in Chelsea than if you're a renter. Because if you're a renter, the rents are going up, you might get forced out. If you own your home, it's so important to be an invested part of the community. And it stabilizes the school system. We need, I can tell you, people go in and out, in and out, in and out of Chelsea all the time. And it makes it hard on our schools. If we get more people to actually own their homes in Chelsea, it's not a matter of homeowners being better than renters. It's not a matter of that at all. Nobody thinks, I haven't heard anybody say that homeowners are better or care about cleanliness more. It's not that at all. It's to lift people up.
So Todd, if you can wrap it up, I'm going to try.
Thank you.
Thank you. My concern with rent control is the other side of the ledger. I have never seen a city manager not propose to the city council to increase taxes on a property owner. So if you're going to say we're going to freeze rents, then that means that the city should stop and look at those homeowners or those property owners and say we're not going to increase your rents. Because you can't squeeze that all at the same time. It's just, that's what my concern here is. That we have homeowners and we have property owners that we also provide, the advocates for. And while you want to say we'll control rent, and I think it's fair to understand that, and we can do that. The other side of that is we can't also be advocating or voting in favor of continued tax increases for those homeowners, because you're going to continue to squeeze what the margin is between that person who owns the house and maybe all of a sudden they're in the red, and that just can't be fair. So that's the problem with rent control, because as long as those who are pushing it, and I mean the city manager and the council and everybody, says to the property owner, we're going to control your rent, but we're also not going to increase your taxes. If that's what's going to happen, then great, you can have that conversation. But there's no two sides, so just that. I just don't want to go to the homeowner and say, you're going to get squeezed on both sides.
Thank you. Joe.
Yeah, I just can't see how this rent control would work in Chelsea. Meaning with the prices of properties right now in Chelsea, a lot of things in Chelsea are going for $400,000 or $500,000. And if rent control did come in, I don't think that you would have rents $500 or $600 under rent control, because people wouldn't be able to afford to pay their mortgages. I think what we need to do, what we talked about before, was we need more homeowner-occupied units at a reasonable rate that people can afford. Working with, people like Chelsea Housing Authority, the neighborhood developers, the collaborative, work with people like that to find a base that's, equal and affordable for everybody. Like I said, the rent control, I remember in Cambridge they had it years ago. It didn't work that well. I mean, most people in rent control apartments back in the day were people that were, had high-paying jobs and working in the Senate and things like that, that weren't deserving of those units. So I just find it that, we should work more on affordable units instead of going this route. Thank you.
Anybody else want to? No, I'm sorry. Sorry, I have to keep it fair to everybody. Anybody else want to answer this question? All right, we're going to take one last question. One final question, and then we're going to give you an opportunity to say something very quickly, and then we're going to close out.
It's like choosing my children.
Oh, that's easy.
Have someone else choose blindly.
Okay, Chelsea lacks emergency homeless shelters. Would you support bringing in emergency shelters, and how?
Okay, Todd, you're on first. Take that one over. Yeah.
So, is Reverend Whitley still here? So, over the last couple of years, I've worked with her through the Chelsea Rotary Club, who I'm going to be the president of next year. And we do this, program to count the homeless every year. I was astounded for last year, we walked all night long. Guess how many homeless we found in Chelsea? Zero. And I'll tell you why. We have a program in Chelsea called the Chelsea Hub.
Absolutely lies. False.
So hold on. I'm talking about people on the street. I'm not talking about.
I'm one of them.
Okay, on the street.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we do have emergency. We do have some emergency stuff, but what I'm saying is that we have made progress in homelessness in Chelsea through, I know the programs that we work through, there's a program called Pantry Necessities for School, Chelsea high school students, people that are couch surfing, and that kind of thing, or people that are in temporary housing right now. So my point is that through programs like the Hub, which is a proactive program that brings together a whole bunch of different entities to get people the help they
Time is
need.
up, so let's wrap it up.
That's it, so thank you.
So back down to Damali and then Roy.
Shout out to Reverend Whitley and the efforts of the homeless count, but the reality is that we have a huge homeless population in the city of Chelsea. They live under bridges, they live in backyards, they sleep under porches, and what's to say when you have people living in cold balconies with no heat that doesn't equate to the same thing as being homeless. I have dealt with this issue face on. I have taken a homeless youth. I have seen other people that are homeless. It is the reality of this city, which is why I reiterate it is important that we hire or we re-elect people to serve you on the city council that are connected to the community, that understand the real needs. I would absolutely support homeless shelter. It is an issue. There are many efforts going into it, with all due respect to Todd Taylor and what he said, because what he says is also true. It's not, what you're saying is also true.
I know.
Yeah. So, but all truths are possible, right? So you may not have counted anybody that night, but there are homeless people. My mother works for Chelsea Housing. Alice here, you know what people are dealing with every day who comes into that office. We need real representation on the city council that's connected to the community. I cannot reiterate that enough. We have a lot of voices for people of greater affluence, but all voices need to be heard at the table.
One of the great things
That's
about
not on.
One of the great things about that CPA program is we thought we had a concept of what it could be, and there was just so many possibilities of what we didn't know how we could use it. And prior to him leaving, Barbara Kuchin from CAPIC, I had encouraged him. We had talked about emergency shelters and housing for families that were in dire need and lack of and having the resources. And he started to have the conversation with the city, Ned Keefe, that I would support him if he was to apply CAPIC for emergency housing and shelters. And I hope that at some point that CPA request comes forward, and I promised him if it ever comes in front of the council that I would support that. So that's how we can do it, in ways.
Thank you. Luis and then Joe.
I would like to speak on.
Go ahead, Leo, Luis, and then Joe.
Just to add on to what Roy had to say is actually the city council deserves a lot of credit. The city council stepped up to help create a day shelter here at the local church on Broadway. We supported hiring navigators to be on the street to talk to those who were afflicted by alcohol and drugs, and helping them get to shelters or get them to treatment. And the city council voted time after time to support those programs. And it's being run by Catholic and the local church here in Chelsea, so there is a lot going on in this community in regards to that. Thank you.
Yeah, I concur with what Leo just said and what Roy said. I'm on the board of directors of CAPIC, as well as Leo, and they do an amazing job. I would certainly support a homeless shelter in the area because I think there's a lot of need. And recently I've encountered a lot of something that bothers me, which is a lot of women that are homeless, and that bothers me. I have a daughter, it's just, I think that a homeless shelter would be something that would just alleviate a little bit of the problems here. I think an organization like CAPIC that has amazing skills at taking care of people would be a great organization to fund so that they could run a program.
Yeah, all councils all have good ideas. I think we as councils need to be more proactive. Like everybody says, Captic has done a great job with helping out a lot of people in Chelsea. When there's a fire in Chelsea and people are set aside, that's the first place they call to get shelter. But I think like with more churches or more of these empty buildings, why can't we set up more shelters for the homeless people? I mean, why don't we have a lot of food pantries in Chelsea to help out with food for these homeless people? I think we need more of this to help out. More shelters, more pantries, more things so they can live a better life. Maybe we as councils need more education, going with some of these groups to see how they do it and how they fund things. Chelsea as city councils, we have a lot of money coming in. We have money coming in from the casino. I would be willing to put aside some of those funds to help the homeless people, no matter whatever it takes. Thank you.
Unless there are any other candidates who are dying to answer this question, we're going to move on because it's 8 o'clock. So I'm going to ask each of the candidates to say a closing statement for 20 seconds, and then the collaborative is going to wrap up the rest of the evening. So we're going to start with Melinda. Okay. And we're going to go this way. Okay, so we'll go with Melinda. Sorry, should have just kept this.
Sorry. Hola, my name is Melinda Vega. I am running District 2. I am a lifelong resident of Chelsea. I am a mother of 2 children. I am passionate about environmental justice and climate change issues. I am also an advocate for immigration issues and affordable housing. And I ask for your vote.
Hi, my name is Luis Tejada, and I'm District 2, I think as a body, I think the council really does a lot of work to try and help people out. And I really feel that we need to be able to help the homeless people. But I think the most important thing, more important than that, while we're trying to solve the problem here, we need to educate people, middle-aged people and beyond, because we need to help people make more money.
Time is up. Thank you.
Hi, Todd Taylor, District 1. I just wanted to say that I didn't mean to say that there wasn't any homeless in Chelsea, that we only found 0 on the street, which is an improvement, which is the point I was trying to make about we are doing things. I am personally involved in programs that help the homeless. So that's my only point, and we need to do more, and I pledge to do so on the City Council.
Hi, Rick Fantano, District 1. I want to thank Raymond Roots for sponsoring this event tonight. In preparation for the night, I learned that there are problems. The city is witnessing a prosperity that we've never witnessed before. It's time to share that prosperity with the existing residents. So thank you, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Roy Avellaneda, and thank you, For those who are not aware of my background, I grew up here in this community. Many know that my parents own Tito's Bakery. I've been a real estate broker, twice a small business owner in this community. Worked at the State House.
Sorry.
And I just use all of that experience to take that onto the council so that I can be the best council as I can be. Use that knowledge to the best interest of the community.
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight. There are some groups who were neglected, possibly that weren't invited to be here tonight, which I thought they should have been. I had a question for Mass General. Are they still in the house? I want to know how you're going to spread that community money around once it comes to Mass General. How much?
We'll let Danielle answer it after all the councilors.
I have led and built coalitions with people on a local and a state level to continue to advocate for this community, albeit at environmental, transit. And so I think I just want to praise the organizations that put this together for understanding the intersectionality of all of our woes. And I think it's important that that's how we continue to build moving forward. We're talking about this on a very local level, but it's important that we talk about regional efforts, and I have demonstrated that I'm able to do that. Excuse me, Rosie. Tuesday, November 5th, Tamale Vito, first on the ballot.
20 seconds is plenty of time to say what I have to say. I'm here because the people put me here. My whole purpose is to help them and serve them. That's what I intend to do. I intend to make their life better, not only in my district, and if I can, maybe to the whole city. By the effort of one, and all of us combined, we can make it better for all the residents of our city. That is the goal of this council, is to make it better in every way and always.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, Judith again. My last remarks are very short. I am a product of this city and I am so passionate about serving my community, and I really want to give back to the community that has given me so much. So on November 5th, Tuesday, November 5th, I ask for your vote. If you want to learn a little bit more about me, please visit my website, www.votejudithgarcia.com. Thank you.
Hi everyone, Naomi Zabit, District 3, and I just want to keep Chelsea the beautiful city it is, so please vote for me. Thank you.
Hi, Joseph Pelletona, current District 3 City Council. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing for you, the people of Chelsea, whether it be working on low-income units for all of you, working on the safety that we started with putting out the new LED lights back in the day, having police officers patrol the streets to keep us safe, working on education for our kids so they have a better life as well, parking issues, you know, we can go on and on and on, but like I said, Chelsea is a great place, and she's cut me up.
So we'll let Danielle answer that question, and then I'm going to ask Jacindy to come up and close us out. Question about the MGH resources.
So MGH has a community advisory board now. It's about a year old. It is comprised of leaders and residents of Chelsea, Revere, and Boston, and they're the ones who will start deciding where some of that determination of need money goes. And who's on that community advisory board? Roseanne, Raphael, Gladys Vega.
You don't get to decide where the money goes.
You get to decide how the money is spent.
And then we step out.
And then you step out of it, and then other people will decide where it goes. RFP process, granting it out. But yeah, it's community based, and they're going to really help decide where that money is spent.
And the city manager is there, and Dan Cortez, and Luis Prado, and a number of other organizations from Revere and Boston, Jeff Stone, and a number of others.
And I'm always happy to talk about our community advisory groups.
And we have a few extra seats on the board, so lots of thank you recommendations and nominations. Okay, and Jacindy, close us out.
All right, what a night. Let's do another big applause for these candidates. And good luck as well, because all of you are have something good to bring to our community to continue to embrace, you know, the community. So I absolutely am really happy that we see some of the faces here in the community, from the community. And when you did mention about, you know, the program, the homeless, tomorrow I don't know if I want to go to work. Honestly, every Friday at the collaborative becomes a chaos because we have to deal with the family and invest from our own resources to place these families in, you know, hotels so that they don't stay over the weekend. Like, levante la mano aquí quienes de ustedes están desamparados que estamos nosotros ayudando. Just to raise your hand. There were 2 other ladies that we were helping here, and that we are helping because they're homeless. And we wouldn't be able to do this kind of work if we wouldn't have the community that we have in Chelsea, and have in existence also a legal team from Greater Boston Legal Services that works in collaboration. Every month we have a Know Your Rights. We have the legal advisors from Harvard University that comes, and we try to organize with City Life together so that we can continue to work on this anti-displacement. Because the problem that we have in our city is not only our city, but our city is suffering the surrounding areas, and we see that is here vividly every day. So thank you so much for coming and speak to us and to, representing you, the community, to represent what we really need here in the game. We really love the game because it really put everything into perspective. Because we really don't have any money to, for luxury, not even to take the kids to the movie. There is no social recreation here in Chelsea. And when you mentioned the shelters, the food, we were laughing here with Damali because we were saying it's gonna sound like a joke, but this is what it is. In our city, we even looking like $1 taco for Monday, Mi Salvador Mexicano, and then on Wednesday, El Charrito, $1.25 la pupusa. So it's like we're trying to survive here in Chelsea. So all of those things, we are seeing, that we really need the city councils and future city councils that run the candidates, that we're gonna be able to have something that can remediate this. And we are hoping also that rent control can be looked at again because it wasn't existing in the past. I know Boston is trying to pass some sort of ordinance, and also at the state level there is some legislation, and we're going to ask for your advocacy so that we can have something that can support us here in Chelsea. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.